and providing solutions with right mix of tools, technologies, and most of all, adapt domain expertise. His international experience besides India includes England, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, UAE, Nigeria, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Fiji, Angola, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Mongolia, Maldives, Denmark, Spain, USA, and other countries. He has carried out grid integration of renewable energy with a portfolio of more than 35,000 megawatts of wind generation and 5,000 megawatts of solar generation. The projects span across India, Sri Lanka, Ethiopia, Fiji, and Indonesia. He was involved in preparation of wind energy grid code in India and also updating Java, Mathura, Bali grid code with renewables as part of ICED 1 project. As part of US aid SARI project, he was involved in harmonization of grid code for South Asian interconnection, which includes renewable energy options for meeting the demand. He is recipient of Outstanding Engineer Award by the IEEE Power and Energy Society in 2016 and also received British Overseas Scholarship in 1997. He has published over 50 research papers in national and international journals and conferences. He has guided over 250 projects of master degree and bachelor degree students, and at present, 3 students are working under him for their PhD, and 2 students are working on MSc by research. He has delivered over 3,000 lectures in the areas of renewable energy integration, intelligent grid, smart grid techniques, forecasting, power system simulation studies, power trading, power exchange, transmission pricing, power system planning, energy management system, power system operation, ABT, FGMO in system operation, reactive power management, electricity supply industry, deregulation and restructuring, power system quality, issues in open access, regulatory issues concerning power sector, integrating wind energy into the grid, power supply to irrigation pump set, solar option, issues in hydro pricing, and financial tools in power trading. Dr. K. Balraman is also active in academic world and is advising many educational institutions and universities, and is also a member of Board of Studies. We thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation in spite of your busy schedule. Now we welcome you, sir, to deliver the technical talk. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor Yamuna. Thanks for inviting me for this present lecture on large-scale RE integration. And very important aspect in this particular thing is we are connected to the remote. So a lot of exchanges will be very difficult to happen, but try to use a chat box for interaction part of it. And today I'll try to cover up on the area of the large-scale RE integration to the grid, the smart initiative, and autonomous grid. I'm trying to focus on autonomous grid in this particular lecture. Is the screen is visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So before start of the lecture, just want to give my disclaimer. The presentation views and opinions of the presenter, it is personal and does not convey the position he holds. It is intended for personal discussion and interaction only. So just to make it very clear, because here I'm trying to have interaction on my personal capacity to have the exchange of views on the subject. So just to give a small brief remark of our institution, the National Institute of Wind Energy is an autonomous body under the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, focusing on wind sector along with the wind and solar resource assessment. And we are the custodian of the largest ground-based measured wind and solar data bank with a close to around 2,000 wind monitoring station and 125 solar monitoring station across the country. And we have the 4 advanced measurement stations for R&D purpose and the MNRE project, which is being used by the WMO for the climate change studies as part of the BSLN network. We developed the Indian wind and solar radiation atlas using mesoscale, coupled with the measured wind data and solar data. And we also developed the Swaraj mobile app. Those who are interested in understanding what's a kind of a wind and solar insolation level or wind speed at a different locations within the country, they can download this app both in the iOS and Android platform, and they can get the data of what you wanted. Yeah, just we move forward. If you talk about the Indian energy, just a glance. If I try to talk about as at the end of September 2020, so you can see we have an installed capacity of close to 373 gigawatts, of which 89 gigawatt is from the renewable energy, comprising of wind, solar, the small hydro, and biomass. Suppose if you want to combine the hydro also, then we are trying to talk about close to around 130 gigawatt of renewable energy is there in the grid. And of course, it's been dominated by the thermal power plant with a 231 gigawatt of thermal, which includes the gas base as well as the diesel, a small capacity part of it. So presently 62% is in thermal and close to 36%, if we talk about large hydro as part of the renewable part of it, is going to be on the RE. This is going to change in the future as we move forward because we are talking about the clean energy transition and making sure that we have a sustainable energy. So India is emerged as the global leader in the RE. We are fourth in the world in the wind energy capacity, and fifth in the world in the solar energy capacity, and fifth in the world in the total renewable energy capacity. And we have seen a tremendous progress in both the wind and solar sector in the last 10 years. If you see the wind capacity, it has moved from 11.8 gigawatts in 2009-10 to 38.4 gigawatt in November 2020. So you can see the kind of multipliers. So this is the one challenge what is being seen in the power sector. The power sector never saw this kind of multiplication. Rather, you are talking about purely on the what's the percentage growth. So here we are not talking about percentage growth. Rather, we are talking about on the multiples. And if you talk about solar, it was just around 0.16 megawatt in 2010. Today we have a 36.5 gigawatt in November 2020. That means you can see the kind of a multiple what you are going to see. Is in the sums of, if you see very clearly in the solar, it's in the terms of the thousands. In case of wind, and if you talk about last 3 decades, is multiplied by more than say 30 to 40 times. And if you see for the last 10 years, it's been multiplied by more than 3 times. So of course, there are new initiatives been taken by the ministry and the government. The solar parks, the transfer and reverse auction, free ISTS, wind solar hybrid, floating solar, offshore, and storage. These are the various initiatives for us to make sure that we are one of the global leaders in the RE. As you're aware, India made a commitment in the Paris Climate Agreement and to say that we are going to reduce the emission intensity of the economy by 1/3 and for having at least 40% of power installed capacity from clean energy sources by the year 2030. So towards this particular, the first target has been given by the government in 2015 to have 175 gigawatt by 2022. That means we are talking about solar for 100 gigawatt, wind 60 gigawatt, biomass 10 gigawatt, and small hydro 5 gigawatt. So this is a kind of a target been given. As we already seen, now presently we have close to 90 gigawatt, and we are going to catch up by meeting this particular target by end of 2022. And moving forward, the India targets to have installed capacity of RE of 450 gigawatt by 2030. That means by 2030 we are going to have roughly around 300 gigawatt of solar and 140 gigawatt of wind and remaining biomass and small hydro. In addition, we are going to have a large hydro and also offshore. So this is a kind of a commitment we are making it to make sure that we are going to be part of the globe and we are going to be the global leader in the RE capacity. So it's good. We have to have the clean energy transition. We need to have renewable energy. But the question is going to be, the main problem with the renewable energy is that it is not when you want the energy. So there is a difference between when you want and when it's available. So compared to conventional power plant, you can start working on whenever you want to see that I need to have my demand to be met. I'm going to turn on my generator. I'm going to feed the fuel to that. Then I'm going to dispatch it. But that kind of a thing is not possible with renewable energy because the renewable energy is going to depend on the availability of the resource, which is going to be dictated by the nature, be it the wind or be it solar. So both of them are dependent on nature's vagacity. That means we are trying to talk about the variability or intermittency. There are various terminology being used. So how we are going to manage this kind of a variable generation part of it, and also how we are going to bridge the gap between when the energy available to when the energy is going to be I want to use the energy. That means there's a gap between when the energy is available to when I want the energy. So the present grid management, if you see, is we are don't do the management by monitoring the large generators connected to transmission network and a bulk demand at the grid interface with the DISCOM. So this part you are trying to talk about, and the main focus is on the load following. That means I am going to follow the demand. what I do is I'll try to dispatch the available generation to match with the demand or the load, whatever you talk about. So we used to have what's the terminology today. We say the load following. So I'll be following the load so that I'm going to match my demand with available generation. But if I try to talk about moving forward in the RE space, it is not just you're talking about load following, but also I need to follow the generation also. That means say I need to understand what is the kind of a generation I'm going to have from wind and solar. So that's specifically the reason why the hitherto we used to have what is called the load forecasting only. So I need to focus the demand so that I'll be comfortable by focusing and meeting my demand with the available generation. But today, I am no longer just do the load forecasting, but also I need to do the generation forecasting. So that's the first change I'm going to see in the grid operation going for the present as well as in the future. And the next very important thing is going to be these REs are more or less is the distributed generations with a combination of wind and solar farms. The pulling of individual wind turbines or the solar panels or rooftop and as well as a small capacity generation connected to distribution network. See, it may be connected to distribution network, it may be connected to transmission network also. But the important aspect is going to be these are all the small generators. If you talk about wind, the maximum the capacity of the turbine today is the in operation 9.8 megawatts, and the largest one is going to be commissioned very shortly is around 12 megawatts. So that is going to be the offshore. In the onshore space, we are roughly seeing between 2 to 3 megawatts each wind turbine. So, and if you talk about solar, the panel size gone up to 350 watts, and they are talking about going to 500 watts. So this is the kind of each panel is going to have 350 to 500 watts. So I'll be having a series of these panels, or I'll be having the series of the wind turbine to get these kind of a capacity what we are trying to talk about. So if you see very clearly how our our entire power system network is going to be there, we have a generation, we have a power plants, it may be solar wind farms, and it may be connected to the transmission system, or the wind and solar farms can be connected to the distribution system also. So we have the transmission system is also connected here. And we are also having the distribution system is also connected here. So I have a generation, I have a transmission, I have a distribution, and distribution consumption, and you can know very well. So if you have the rooftop solar, I could see the generation going to the transmission system also sometimes, or it's going to go into the other distribution network. So this is what is going to having the interaction today we are trying to talk about. So this is where we are trying to talk about how we are going to manage it. The challenge is going to be today if you see the entire distribution network and below say 33 kV or 11 kV, these are all invisible region. That means say the person sitting in the control room would not know how each consumers, be it a large consumers in the buildings, or it may be the individual consumers, he doesn't know how he is operating. And that is the beauty of the power system network. So if you see very clearly, okay, the consumers is going to switch on his appliances. The moment he switches it on, then immediately I'm going to get the power supply from some power plant located in the system, and this is going to happen in the real time. But the problem is going to be that hitherto I'm going to see the only one way of traffic was there, and there is no issue at all for me to meet the demand because I'll be having some kind of a aggregation at this level, and I know what's the kind of aggregated demand. But the problem is going to happen is when I have a lot of rooftop generations or small generation connected to my distribution network, at that time I'll not be knowing very clearly what is my demand and how much is generation is going to come. So I am going to talk about the net demand part of it. And again, net demand, suppose if there is suddenly a cloud movement is going to come, definitely solar power is going to come down, then immediately there will be a large surge in the demand. And similarly, when you are talking about the midday during a lunch hour, the demand is going to be low, the generation will be very, very high, then I need to manage it. So these are the challenges we are going to see in the future. That's especially what we are trying to talk about, creating some kind of a smart initiatives so that how we are going to manage the system. So as I told very clearly, with a large-scale RE, the grid manager need to consider both the variation in demand as well as RE generation. So that means we are trying to talk about not just the focus on mere load following, but I'm trying to talk about the net load following, or I'm trying to talk about net of the distributed generation and their demand. And moving forward, it may even that not be sufficient. I may have to change my concept from load following to the generation following also. So this is where the problem is going to come in, where how I'm going to manage the grid in the future. So even if we talk about a smart initiative, every aspect of it, no doubt about that. But the critical challenge is going to be how we want to manage a grid. So in this particular part of it, this is where we are trying to talk about. Either two, the demand is made as some kind of inflexible in a demand. That means the consumers have been given the absolute freedom. Whenever he wants it, he is going to switch on the load. Whenever he doesn't want it, he is going to switch off the load. But moving forward, some kind of a demand need to be available. We call this as a flexible demand. So how we are trying to talk about flexible demand to be? We talk about flexible or interactive demand. So there are few demand where the few loads which may not be required, it can be made flexible. For example, your washing machine. Your washing machine can be switched on even in the day or in the night or in the midnight also, because it's going to wash is the cloth and it's going to be made available to you. So there is no need that there is a fixed time for me to operate the washing machine. Similarly, I have some kind of flexibility in my cooking demand, and I have a flexibility in case of my refrigerator. But I don't have a flexibility in the evening, the lighting, and probably TV. So these are all I call as inflexible demand. And at this present juncture, we are talking about the inflexible demand is your computers. So I cannot compromise on shutting down on my computer because I need power supply for this. So this becomes the inflexible, or I talk about the firm demand, and there are some demands is going to be flexible. For example, you talk about your refrigerator. Your refrigerator, I call it as the flexible demand. So if I switch off a refrigerator for say the half an hour to 1 hour, there is no impact on your life. So after 1 hour, if the power is coming back to your refrigerator, it's going to switch on and it's going to manage. So this is precisely moving forward. We need to start working on how we are going to create a flexibility of the demand part of it, and creating some kind of a control, direct control with every of the consumers, so that we are going to manage this kind of a demand. So that means what we are trying to talk about, the managing the non-dispatchable generation. What's the non-dispatchable generation here? The wind and solar. The wind and solar cannot be dispatched because it is on the vagaries of nature. Suppose if you want to reduce the generation, then I am not utilizing the full capacity what's available. So the energy is going to go as a waste. I don't call it a waste. It is not getting used at all for the useful purpose. The energy is available, but I'm not harnessing the energy. So this is especially why these are the generation we call it non-dispatchable generation. So we need to manage this non-dispatchable generation with the flexible and interactive load, and manage the inflexible demand with the dispatchable generation. This is how the strategy need to be worked out moving forward. Any doubt or any questions? Any questions? Any clarification?
Sir, there is a question in the chat box. There's a question in the chat box. Net
Yeah,
load
can you please,
variability
because I
will be more
couldn't
than
see
load.
from here.
Yeah.
Please repeat.
Net load variability would be more than load, was the question. But was it clear, sir?
See, the net load can be positive or negative. That means the net load, sometimes the generation will be higher, but demand will be lower. What will happen is at that time the generation is going back to the grid, and from the grid is getting distributed somewhere else. So net load can be positive or negative. That's specifically the challenge what you are going to see here. Is it clear?
I hope so. It was the question by a participant.
Okay.
Suman. Yeah.
Any other questions? Because this is the problem in our online part of it, because the interaction of the participant will be very minimal. So we'll try to make it as lively as possible.
Yes, sir. There's one more question in the session.
Hmm.
How to regulate or improve the fluctuation of power in wind plant?
See, it is. See, we are going to have some kind of storage. Or today, what's happening is the wind is getting fluctuated in one area, but it's not going to fluctuate in another area. Just forget about the wind. Talk about solar today. So in one place you got a cloud coverage. The other location there's no cloud at all. So the cloud movement and other things is going to be like a random behavior. But if you start looking at aggregation, so today I have aggregated 38.4 gigawatt of wind. So if I talk about the large integration of the wind, the fluctuation in one area is getting compensated by the positive fluctuation in the other area. So this is where you're going to meet these kind of things. So, and moving forward, people try to talk about the storage part of it. Yes, we'll try to look into the storage aspect at the later part of the presentation. Anything more?
Sir, one more question from the participant. Where I can get the data required for forecasting of wind speed and solar irradiation for at least 5 years on 10 minutes average basis?
You can get it anyway. We have the data portal is available, which is going to be on sale. The people can get the data of the one area, the one sensors or the multiple sensors. You can visit NIWE website. You can get the details. You have a data up to 10 years on some locations.
Sir, one more question from the participant side.
Yeah.
Could you please comment anything on wave energy generation? Can we expect significant amount of power can be generated through wind energy?
See, the question is not very clear. They are talking about wind energy or wave energy.
The first question is on wave energy, sir. Could you please comment anything on wave energy generation?
The wave energy, the tidal and the wave energy, yes, this is at the demonstration phase in many corners of the world. But today, still today, we are not seeing the commercialization because the cost of generation from the tidal and the wave is going to be much higher. That means that today they are talking about between 20 to 30 rupees per unit of energy. So this is specifically the point is going to be. So whenever you talk about energy resource, this is what yesterday I was talking about in one of the other lectures on the sustainability. So if you are going to extract any energy, what's the kind of energy you're going to input and how much energy you're going to receive it? Today, if you talk about the wave energy, tidal energy, is going to be roughly between 1 and less than 1. That means say the cost of energy I'm going to input into the components where I'm going to extract the energy, that is going to be equal to what's the energy I'm going to get output of it. So it's not getting sustainable as on today. So we need to have a lot of research to do this particular part of it. And the next thing is wind. Yes, we have the wind capacity part of it. And today we estimate 695 gigawatt across the country at 120 meters hub height. And presently we are working with the 150 meters hub height, where we are trying to see close over 1000 gigawatt could be the potential what roughly our training estimated. And in case of offshore, we already said very clearly the 70 gigawatt is a capacity that could be harnessed in offshore. Is it fine?
Yes, I hope so. And the next question is there any hybrid PV or wind or SOFC with battery storage system in India which is implemented?
So as of now, it is not that hybrid. Yes, wind and solar hybrid is already there. The first project has been started by NIWE in Kayathar. We connected a 75 kilowatt solar with a 200 kilowatt of wind turbine at the distribution level itself. So that's a hybrid, and now at present we have a lot of hybrid if you talk about co-located. And if you talk about the grid part of it, today already we have all the kinds of hybrid in the electricity part of it. And talking about storage, still we are trying to work it out. In fact, there is a new tender has come in, so they are trying to have this particular wind solar along with the storage and hybrid, but still it's not commissioned. And moving forward, you can see a lot of the project coming up. And parallelly, presently, we are working at Nive along with the Denmark Tech University. We are working on hybrid project, wherein we are trying to design the converters and controllers for wind, solar, and the storage as an hybrid, where we are finding out the converter design as well as the controller design. If somebody of any of the students are interested in working this particular one, they can contact us. We can enroll them because this is going to be a 3 years project along with the DTU as well as with the DST in India. We are working on that. That's all the questions?
Yes, sir. As of now, that's
Okay.
it.
Yeah. Okay. So let me move on. So the grid operation today is like a one-way traffic. So from the generation is going to the load, and there's no reverse power flow is going to happen. And moving forward, if you're talking about the tomorrow or even today, if you try to talk about, I have the generations and the demand is going to be exchanging between the load to the system. That's specifically why today we are talking about the consumers as the prosumers. A consumer can be producer of energy also. So we have when EV is going to come up, we are going to see a lot of challenge going to happen here, and we are going to see a more interactive part of it. So again, coming back. So when you talk of flexibility in the demand, even the EV demand moving forward is also can be classified as a flexible demand. So this kind of a thing is going to happen. So we need to have some kind of a mechanism how to move forward. So we are talking about a smart grid for a very long time. Yeah, smart grid, yes, we are going to be a very clear mechanism is going to be available, but we need to start looking in a different aspect altogether when you are talking about managing the grid. So that's precisely why I try to introduce a new concept. Of course, not me, I'm talking about the researchers. So we are introducing a new concept called autonomous grid. So now you may be aware of the autonomous vehicle, where we are trying to talk about the driverless car. So with the kind of technology available today, you can have the car itself could be driverless, and it can communicate from one area to other area. You can transport from one area to other area, and through a secure part of a technological as well as the communication aspect of it. So taking that as a coup, we can start working on in the future grid when you have a lot of complications, including variable generation, electrical vehicles, energy storage, and the control of loads. So if we can start looking in how we are going to take care of the random various of DERs and the generation side, and also the demand side is the EV. We are going to have a lot of issue on the grid security part of it. So we need to create, that's a need today. We need to create an active network of DERs, the controllable loads, the storage, and what you call as a virtual power plant. And moving forward, we need some kind of what is called autonomous grid. The autonomous grid could be a microgrid or a mini grid, which can seamlessly interconnect with the larger grid. That means, say, I am going to create a grid wherein we are going to have the grid is going to be managed by itself, is going to take the control of what is the generation available from the RE, be it wind and solar, and also based on this generation is going to dispatch the load. So from the level of what we are trying to talk about dispatching of generation, today we are trying to talk about how we are going to dispatch the demand. So just to take a small example here, say just take your own the campus. In the campus, you want to power the entire campus as an autonomous grid, as a microgrid. And you have only the wind, solar, and the biomass to take care of it, and a bit of a storage. And generally, you're going to operate your campus during a daytime. So your main requirement is from the solar. So you're going to get the power from solar. So today, if you presume that your college campus has got a demand of say 1 megawatt. So you have roughly around say 1.5 to 2 megawatt of all the installed capacity of wind, solar, or the biomass and every aspect of it. So you need a demand of 1 megawatt at any point of time. Now suddenly if you see the cloud coverage is going to come in, the generation what is available to you is only 50%. So that means say as against the 1 megawatt of demand what you need for the campus, you have only 500 kilowatts. So what you do, you try to switch off some of the air conditioners, because air conditioners are not the essential demand. Even if you switch off the air conditioner for say 10 to 15 minutes, there's no problem at all. And if at all any cold storage are there, the refrigerators or anything, if you switch it on, switch it off, then again I'm going to manage it. Our next portion is, suppose if the demand is going to further come down, then what you can do is you can suspend the lab activities where you're going to use the motors a lot, large demands and other things. That's also a flexible demand, so you can vary that particular demand part of it. And suppose if the generation is going to be further come down, then you're trying to talk about what are the other demand you can curtail it. So which is not going to impact on the regular work part of it. So if you talk about in the classroom, the important part of it today is the load is going to be mainly on the projector part of it and possibly the lighting. These are the two important what you need in the classrooms. So that I call it inflexible demand. Right? Suppose if I have the problem there, then even I can switch off the projector and I can use the board to explain. That means say the lighting demand is going to be very, very low. That means say the lighting demand form part out less than 5%. That means say as against 1 megawatt of my total load what I have it. Even if I have only 50 kilowatts, that 50 kilowatts is sufficient to power my entire campus for the lighting part of it. So this is what we are trying to talk about on how we are going to manage with autonomous grid. So it is automatically going to give what is the kind of priority of the different demands. And this priority could be changed. So it is going to continuously monitor what's the kind of generation available from the wind, solar, biomass, your storage everywhere, then and seamlessly controls this demand. So we are coming to a stage wherein what you are trying to talk about the dispatching of the generation today moving forward. When you're talking microgrid or mini grid, we are trying to talk about dispatching of the demand also we are trying to talk about. So that's what we are trying to say in the autonomous grid. So why we are talking about autonomous grid here? Because the large scale RE opens up thousands of control points, and which is increasing the complexity of power system to a point at which existing techniques to monitor, control, optimize them will be inadequate. Today, I have, if you talk about, as I told you, I have close to 35,000 wind turbines out there in the country. So, and please remember, when I have a power plant, the power plant capacity is so large, the conventional power plant, we are talking about 500 megawatt units or 1000 megawatt, and I will be having a very less control points. But moving forward with a large scale RE, I am going to open up not just 1,000. And sometimes I'll try to talk about even the millions of control points getting created. So these control points, monitoring them in the real time through SCADA or any other means is very, very difficult. It's impossible, I could tell you. So this is where we are trying to talk about a concept similar to autonomous vehicle, which do not require the physical driver to take a decision. It can take the decision by itself. So the autonomous electricity grid do not require the physical operators, can be extremely secure and resilient, the self-healing, and can self-optimize in real time to ensure economic and reliable performance while integrating energy in all forms. So what we are trying to talk about from the level of present, what you are talking about the smart grid initiatives. So you are encompassing every aspect of the smart grid to create what we call the autonomous grid to move forward as we create the mini and micro grids where you can seamlessly interact with the large grid. So when the topic came to me on the smart grid, because many of you for the last 10 years, you have gone through the smart grid part of it. So there's no point in repeating the same smart grid features. So I want to take it to the next level, especially I'm trying to present this particular aspect of the autonomous grid. So any questions? Okay, since no response is there, I'm not sure, are we in line?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any questions are there?
No, sir.
No, sir. As
Okay.
of now, there's no questions.
Okay, so when you talk about autonomous grid, it's going to open a lot of research framework which is going to come in, and we need advanced foundational science to develop a common analytical framework for modeling, optimization, control of the complex system at a multiple spatial and temporal scale. So this is the challenge what you're going to have. So what you are going to see in the future, you're going to have a smart devices already there. So it's going to take care of the communication, is going to operate on its own, and we do have the non-linear control part of it, and we have a complex system how you are going to manage it. You have optimization tools, then you need the big data analytics part of it, and more importantly, I'm going to have a cybersecurity space. So this is what is going to happen. Moving forward, we are trying to open a multidisciplinary approach in the managing the grid. So right from how I'm going to make the present devices, how I'm going to make it as a smart devices, so that it can interact part of it, be a refrigerator, be it your air conditioner, be it your washing machine, be it your water heaters, or be it is a room meters, whatever it may be, whatever you try to talk about, we are trying to create the smart devices on this particular one. And from there, we are trying to have the control to be exerted. And I'm going to see very clearly. Please remember, the power system is a non-linear. So when I talk about optimization, definitely I need to have a very greater mechanism in which I need to control these devices, and it's going to be in the real time. When I talk about real time, we are talking about in a fraction of a second or in the milliseconds. So within a millisecond, this autonomous grid need to take a decision and which load to be controlled, and whether how much generation is available, how much demand to be curtailed. It's not be more or it not be less. So again, more or less, again, it's going to create a frequency disturbance. So this is where we are trying to talk about moving forward. Will be smart grid devices will be there. You have the complex systems, how you're going to manage it, the non-linear control, how you're going to optimize it. And if you have to do all these things, I need the big data. Big data is a critical aspect here, particularly in the audio space. So either two, we are trying to talk about in other atmosphere, we are talking about big data analytics. But moving forward, the renewable energy and the grid needs a lot and lot of big data analytics, because I need to create intelligence based on what the data available, based from my consumers or from my devices or from my the generations and every aspect of it. But moving forward, the cybersecurity is going to be a critical aspect that need to be concerned. So what's the kind of a vision we are going to create an autonomous grid? The first and foremost, it is designed to self-organize and control themselves so as to create resilient, reliable, and affordable, optimized energy systems. So this is very, very important part of it. So the reliability cannot be compromised, and affordability also cannot be compromised. You cannot say that, yes, I could do all the system, but my cost of energy is going to go to, say, the present level of 5 rupees will go to 10 rupees. Then it's not going to be acceptable. So you need to create a resilient, reliable, and affordable system. And also we talk about is to be extremely resilient. That means, say, some of the loads I cannot interrupt at all. For example, you have Callie server. The server data, the server, I cannot interrupt any kind of possibility to that. So I have to ensure not just one layer, maybe 2 or 3 layers of the generation I'm going to have it. So I'm making sure that the very critical load, I am not going to disrupt at all, even if there's a disturbance in the grid. So that's especially the important part of it is to how to create an extremely resilient system that can optimize themselves for reliability and economic performance without the need for operators. So that's especially the design landscape we are talking about. This is a kind of a problem definition what I'm going to put for the autonomous grid. And the next very important thing is going to be able to seamlessly connect and disconnect from the other grids. So you have the larger grids, you have the mini grids, you have the micro grid. You design your micro grid based, and it should be autonomous grid for you for your campus. So when you need, sometimes whenever there is a need arises, you can latch onto the larger grid. And if the larger grid is going to have any problem, you can isolate yourself and you can control on your own with the microgrid. So why you want to have a larger grid? It may not be possible for me to have a large amount of storage. The larger grid has got a good storage and a good inertia part of it. So I can take this inertia and the storage space from the larger grid as and when necessary, and at the same time, By connecting the autonomous grid with a larger grid, I am not going to create any kind of disturbance in the larger grid. Similarly, by connecting to larger grid, this autonomous grid should not create any kind of a disturbance. So that's especially why the way I'm going to put it is going to be the seamlessly connect and disconnect from the other grids. And it has to incorporate a variable generation, the energy storage, the controllable loads, the multi-energy carriers, the energy conversions. Every aspect is going to be supported by the autonomous grid, and it has to support a scalable, reconfigurable, self-organized information and control infrastructure, and capable of high level of security and resilience, and self-optimizing in the real time for economic and the reliable performance. So this is a kind of a vision or a problem statement we are going to create for a autonomous grid. Any questions? So I need to spend some time on this particular one so that the people can understand, and if they have any query and any questions, is going to enlighten me to think in a new direction. So these are the critical terminologies that need to be understood, and that's where I need to have a small focus with the team now. Any clarifications or any questions? Are we there connected?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. If the points are understood or any clarification needed?
So participants, if you have any clarifications, you can please ask the questions. You can unmute and you can ask the questions.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Vinod from MM College. How they are managing the harmonic imbalance while connecting the wind and solar, then power plants?
See, harmonic is not a big challenge because we have good filters are available, and also now we have active filters. So harmonic is not a big challenge what we are trying to see it, and also the grid has got a large sink available for the harmonic to take care of it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other question from participants?
No, ma'am.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So what are the challenges? These are the challenges what I try to talk about as the things available for the researchers to do the research. Today is a virtually the free space for the people to venture into the research and mine whatever they wanted to do their PhD. So one is on the computational challenge, the non-linear models, non-convex optimization part of it. The next is on scalability, and billions and billions of intelligent years, how we are going to take care of, how we are going to scale up it. If you're talking about the big data, the big data is going to lie here. How we am going to pick up the right amount of data and to create an intelligence out of it. And how I'm trying to see the increased volatility in that supply, demand, voltage, frequency. So frequency may not be constant. So the frequency can vary between 48 to 52. And again, if the frequency is going to come down a bit less to that, so whether it's possible to manage the microgrid. So these are the things need to be studied and need to come out very clearly. Rather than fixated with a constant frequency or fixated with some kind of a voltage part of it, how we can see very clearly how we can control it, how we are going to take care of the increased volatility part of it, and the limited sensing and control, the design of and consent from the cyber topology part of it, and incomplete or unreliable data. This is the big challenge is going to be. The data, what you are going to get from the sensor, sometimes it may be unreliable or it may not be complete. So these are the challenges we're going to see. Please remember, sensor is also an additional instrumentation where it can behave properly. Sometimes it may not behave properly also. So this is where we need to start working on the local state estimation part of it, the system identification, how we are going to take care of, even if there is an instrument which is not going to give proper data, how I can talk about the local state estimation so that I'm going to estimate this is the kind of a thing I'm going to have it. And the data-driven modeling and the control and the real-time at scale. So this is, I picked up from Autonomous Energy Grid, the Stephen Lowe from Caltech. So these are the challenges we're going to see, and there are multiple. These are all small. These are the bits and pieces I try to pick it up, but there are the many areas are going to be available for us to move forward in the research area. So the big challenge I'm trying to talk about is, so though the concept of autonomous grid is emerging, but there is no clear boundary of how big or how small this to be. So this is going to be an issue is going to be whether you're talking about say 100 megawatt as the small grid part of it, or you're talking about 1000 megawatt as a space, or the state, like the state of Tamil Nadu can be autonomous grid. So there is no clear boundary which is going to be emerging, or it may be a campus itself can be autonomous grid. So there's no clear answer to that. So it can be and it need not have to be. What's the kind of a need? What's the kind of operation I'm going to have it? These are going to be determined what kind of autonomous grid I'm going to create it. The other one is going to be whether the autonomous grid to be connected synchronously or asynchronously. So whether today, if you try to talk about any kind of interconnection, the international interconnection, I'm talking about between the India and Bangladesh. We are not connected synchronously, rather we are talking about HVDC back to back. And similarly, we are trying to talk about some other larger interconnections. And hitherto, we used to have what is called the our own the grid atmosphere in 2003, and we used to have the 5 regional grids. Only ER and the NER was connected in the asynchronous mode, and whereas the rest of the regions have been connected to the HVDC back to back. So other time it was operated asynchronously. So what kind of a autonomous grid we are going to have it, whether to be connected synchronously or asynchronously, or whether we can create a flexible frequency. So whether autonomous grid can work with a flexible frequency, how it is going to take care of it. And more importantly, how the autonomous grid can handle the low inertia in the energy systems. The inertia has become a big challenge going forward in the autonomous grid, where we are going to integrate with the larger grid. Because today, if you want to start a larger motor, you need to bother just switch on a motor, automatically it's going to be started because I have a large inertia available. And there's no problem with the grid. Whereas in case of the only with the RE, with the autonomous grid, not much of inertia is available, then operation of the demand become very, very difficult. And also, we are trying to have the larger grid. There's need to redefine the control area. The control area needs to be dynamic, expands and contracts based on demand supply balance. And HVAC and HVDC network need to be optimized to take care of the changing power flows. So these are the kind of challenges what you are going to have it. And these are the perspective we need to start emerging it out in our autonomous grid. And we need to have a lot of research need to be going to this particular aspect of it to have the future scaling of renewables with a smart energy technology, how we are going to operate it. So this is a new concept. I thought I could have more time for interaction.
participants, you can please post your questions.
So there are a few questions are there. One is on our institute has got 125 kilowatt solar plant installed. So this is where the space you need to start working on your campus. Whether you can create an autonomous grid of your own campus. Please remember today you are paying the lakhs of rupees for EB for the bills. So when you have a solar plant and you have your students, you have a PhD scholars are available, how can you create? Not necessarily overnight. It may take some 3 years or 5 years. So do we have a framework to start working on? This is especially what I put a research challenge to the all the institution. Please start working on that. The self-healing is purely about is nothing but it has to anticipate where the disturbance is going to come up, and the moment disturbance is going to come, it has to heal the disturbance so that it's not getting propagated. So I think the constraint and detector, sorry, I already explained that particular one. And again, it's up to you the research, whether research can be done for all the constraints simultaneously. See, that's a mathematical challenge we are going to have it. So ideally, yes, but practically it will be very difficult to address every constraint simultaneously, but you need to start working on that. Yeah, now we can open further. Any other questions, any interactions? You can unmute.
Participants can raise your question now, or else you can post it in the chat box too.
Hello, good morning, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, some voice is coming, but not
Yes.
probably visible.
Little more louder, ma'am.
So Jitendra asked about the on-grid, off-grid. See, it is like you can have a microgrid not connect to the grid at all. Or sometimes I need to connect to the grid. So that's what connect to the grid, we call it on-grid. And if you are remote, that disconnect from the grid, we call it off-grid.
Hello, good morning, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, yes, Sangeeta, please go ahead.
Sir, can we believe in AI-based energy management for renewable energy sources or not? In actual
Can you please repeat the question? Because the first part is not clearly audible.
should we believe in the artificial intelligence techniques? Those can be used for energy management in actual practice. In actual practice, where we are using the renewable energy sources.
This is precisely we are contemplating on the autonomous grid. The autonomous grid part of it, when you talk about non-linear controlled optimization, it is not possible with the normal mathematical equations. So you need to go with artificial intelligence, be it deep learning or ANN or the fuzzy, every aspect is going to be there. So this is where we are trying to talk about big data. And if at the moment we are talking about data and other things, then definitely you are going to create artificial intelligence.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other question from participants? So one more question from participant. Dear sir, I am doing research in DFIG connected grid connected system. According to you, why there are major faults occurring in grid side?
Question, no, it's not very clear. Please remember the grid is going to have a major fault will be there. That's a part and parcel of any grid systems. The fault is going to happen in the system. The question is not very clear. Why there are major faults occurring in the grid side? Especially the fault is going to come on the grid at any point of time. We need to design the network to take care of it. So design, you can make the question bit clear. What exactly you are talking about?
Hello, sir. Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
Morning.
I'm PhD research in the DFAG connected grid connected system, sir. So I face a lot of difficulties. I went to the plant and I see a lot of difficulties from the site engineer as well as the plant maintenance engineer. So what they have told me that since there is a lot of fault in the grid connected, even the DFAG, the windings, the coils, everything gets spoiled. So if we are connected in the standard system, it is not occurring any fault when compared to the grid connected. So according to you, why these faults are occurring if we are connected to the grid? So major point from your point of view, like to ask you, sir. That's what.
See, the issue is going to be the grid is going to have the fault. Please remember the transmission line or the distribution line goes to the spaces. It's going to be like it is not insulated. It's not the cable system. Even the cable system, you're going to have the fault. So the bird hitting, the lightning strike, and there are many fault is going to happen within the system. We call it a large disturbance as well as small disturbance. This is where we need to start creating the protection for this particular one. And that's what you're talking about autonomous grid also. It has to anticipate a disturbance and make sure that the disturbance is going to be handled properly. It is not to say that there's no disturbance going to be there. The disturbance would be part and parcel of the grid system. That's what I want to put it, emphasize very clearly today. So whatever you're trying to talk about in the grid, yes, consider the worst fault. What design you are going to make in your system need to take care of these faults. And minimizing the faults in the grid is very difficult. It's not possible also, I can tell you, because it is going in the open space and lot of variables is going to occur. Lightning, can you prevent the lightning? It's not possible. The rainfall, can you prevent it? No. The bird hit, can you prevent it? No. And any other accident is going to take place, the conductor getting snapped, definitely you cannot do anything on that. Installation getting flashed over, it is going to happen. Clear? So you need to design your protection system such a manner that so the moment before the fault is going to occur or since when the fault is going to occur, these are all possible with the modern devices what you are trying to talk about, and take the fault and design your protection system to take care of this particular one. So the failure of insulation, the failure of the winding, the motor or I talk about generator, it is I would call about the lack of proper protection. We need to increase our protection part of it. You need to create a lot of surge arresters because most of the winding getting failed because of the surges. So if the surge is not got, the surge arrestor is not designed properly, the lightning arresters and the surge arresters, then definitely you're going to see the winding failures.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The other one is the Radhika is asking whether the height of wind turbine fixed variable. I call it a very beautiful question, but I want to put it in a different perspective altogether. Please remember, this is what I always talk about. If you say that in the 20th century, the electricity grid as an engineering marvel, in the 21st century, I call it a wind turbine as an engineering marvel. Why I call it engineering marvel? So you might have seen the wind turbine and you could have seen the blade on the highways. The length of the blade going up to say 60 to 70 meters, and today we are going up to 80 to 85 meters of blades also. And if I talk about the nacelle, the hub, and the entire assembly, the generator is going to be lying at the top of the turbine. That means say at the height of say 150 meters or 180 meters, as a case may be. The total weight of the entire generator, the blade, every assembly put together is ranging from, with a different capacity of wind turbine, ranging from say 100 tons to almost 250 tons. So please remember, I am lifting a weight of close to 150 to 200 tons at a height of 150 meters and rotor there and make it to rotate. So this is where we are talking about the engineering model here. So just imagine that kind of a weight, is it possible for you to increase the height? Can it be made variable? Because see, just imagine the weight and the length of the blade itself. So answer is clearly no, it's not possible because we are talking about the dynamics or the mechanical system is going to be so diverse and so dynamic, it will not be possible for us to take care of this. Okay?
So one more question from participant.
Hmm.
Height of wind turbine is
Yeah,
fixed.
this is specifically what I just answered. It will not be possible.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Any other question from participant?
See, the DC microgrid and the AC microgrid, yes, is possible, no issues at all. We can have the DC microgrid because if you have only your computers and the only lighting demands are there, including a fan, yes, this could be powered from the DC. But the limitation is going to be if you are trying to connect it to some of the AC motors and other things is going to be larger, then it's going to be issue. So, especially what I talked about previously, when I talk about the microgrid, it can be DC or it can be AC. So it all depends upon what kind of a design, what kind of a load you are going to have it. Accordingly, you can design it. Yes, the courses will be starting shortly at Neve on the wind, the foundation part of it, and also we are trying to talk about the Vayu Mitra program also. So the question is going to be how to reduce a flicker. Jitendra, can you be very clear what kind of flicker you are trying to talk about here? You can unmute it. So there is no fluctuations. So this is where we need to be very clear. So in the power system terminology, you got the flickers, the fluctuations will be there. If you're trying to talk about the minute or 2 minutes, then you're going to the variation in the generation. So it is not called the fluctuations. See, the problem is you're talking about with the economics between HVDC and HVAC. Please remember, HVDC is good for the long distance transmission because of the cost of the conversions and inversions of the DC to AC to DC and DC to AC. So the economic distance we are trying to talk about between say 800 kilometers and above, and with the power capacity of 1000 megawatt and above, if you are talking bulk transmission, then the HVDC is going to be more preferable. Otherwise, HVAC, because I want to have more flexibility in controlling, so HVAC is going to be better. See, today, if you're talking about the type 1, there's another question from Meenakshi, how to reduce reactive power compression in wind plant. See, if you talk about the type 3, the DFIG, and also in the type 4 machines, the machine itself is going to generate enough reactive power to power what's the reactive power required. The type 1 and type 2, now no longer, there are very few capacities are available, and no longer is it going to be a challenge. But even if you are trying to do that, we have got a capacitor bank, and also sometimes you're going to have SVCs also to take care of it.
Sir,
Yeah.
Sir, I have one question. So
Yes, Bino.
for doing research, is NIWE is providing the data free of cost if we approach through institutes?
See, if you can work in Navy for research, there's no problem at all. If you want to take the data out, then it will not be permissible. You have to go apply the data policy.
Okay.
In fact, we welcome the students or the researchers to come and work in Nivea and develop. Especially what I always say to the students community and the researchers. We do a good opportunity for all the researchers to come and work with us. You get your PhD, I get your model. That's a deal. And also, I can define the problem to you. Normally, for any of the PhD, you're going to take at least 1 or 2 years for your the identifying the problem and the defining the problem. So we can define the problem for you. You please give only the solution to the problem what you're going to post it.
Okay.
Yes, we do open. But the data cannot be ported outside because we are bound by the government policy on the data.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So in case of permanent magnet synchronous generator, there is no reactive power required at all. See, the reactive power is required only in case of induction generator because you are making the induction motor to operate as a generator. So for which you need a reactive power of the magnetic coils. In case of synchronous generator, the rotor itself is going to take care of the reactive power requirements. The other question from Karpakam is on the any simulation tools available for wind regarding compensation. There are lot and lot of there. You have the MyPort, they got Dig Silent. There are many softwares are available.
Sir, one question from me. What is the
Yeah.
status of smart grid implementation in India, sir? The level of implementation of smart grid?
Okay. The question is going to be, this is where everywhere I'm going to get it. So how you define the smart? See, the moment you implement any kind of implementation, then it's no longer called as a smart. We have a lot of meters which become smart, but the moment it's implemented, it's not no longer become smart. It's going to be part and parcel of it. So today we have a good meters, we have a good devices which are smart enough. If you're talking about the language of 2010 or 2015, and today with the technology getting advanced, it is no longer smart. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So the smart, especially why if you talk about definitely smart grid, the smart grid is nothing but what is the present today, how you're going to go to the next level. So until you need the next level, that's called smart. The moment you reach that level, then it's no longer called as smart. It becomes like a business as usual. So other question is on from Suman to talk about what's the highest penetration of limit of wind power. There's nothing called any kind of a limit. It all depends upon what kind of a flexibility you're going to create in the grid so that you can take care of it. So presently, the people talk about between 25-30% as energy terms could be an issue, but the Denmark zone very clearly, yes, they can operate with 100% wind point also. But question is going to be how we are going to connect to the grid. So this is where the definition of the grid is going to be very, very critical here. And that's why our Prime Minister also talked about moving forward. So we need to have, we have a one sun, we have one world. Why can't we have one grid? So that grid could be at the complete interconnection across the globe. So we can exchange the power from one corner to other corner through renewable energy. So we don't have any kind of a challenge in taking care of it. The flexibility of EV, yes. So if I stop your EV from charging, say 5 to 10 minutes, nothing is going to happen. So this is what we talk about very clearly, the flexibility in the demand. So whether it's going to be demand is inflexible or flexible, that you are going to say it. Suppose if you are on a highway, you are going to be in a traffic, you are going to charge within a short period of time. At that time, the EV charging will not be flexible, it will become inflexible load. So any other questions?
Any other question from participants?
Okay, if no more questions, let me say thank you. because I want to have more of an interactive part of it than because most of these things are available in Google. So what my intention is going to be very clearly to make you to think in a new direction. So with the concept, what is there? Thank you.
Yes, sir. We can really visualize a very excellent technical content in your for our researchers and deliver in your presentation. Your explanation on autonomous grid with renewable penetration and the challenges might offer new research information for most of us. The drive you made us to know the research opportunities in autonomous grid is really very interesting. And the time you spent with us in clarifying the participants' doubt is also remarkable. On behalf of VIT and the participants, I thank you profusely for your excellent technical content, the efforts you have put to combine information in a PPT, and your kind acceptance to deliver this content for us in this FDP. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now we will go for a break and meet you again in the section 5 to be held at 11:30 a.m. The feedback link has been shared in the chat box. You can fill the feedback form right now. We do have few instructions to convey to our participant. Participants should keep their mic off during the sessions, and the questions has to be asked only at the end of the session, or you can post it in the chat box in medieval time. And I request all the participants to fill the feedback form which is provided in the chat box. This will be counted as an attendance. Also, I request the participants kindly join 5 minutes prior to the session. At the end of the 5 days FDP, that is on the 5th day session, an examination will be held on the sessions conducted and the questions will be asked. 80% of the attendance and 60% of the marks in the test are mandatory to get the certificate from Atel Academy. Thank you. Raghavendran sir, stop presenting, I think.
Pasira, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Shall we start then?
Just once again, ma'am. Raghavendran sir,
Okay.
please stop presenting this.
I think sir has joined.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.